Hi everyone, welcome. Today we have a really special show. This is our first show that we're ever doing actually. My name is Sarah Rosano. I am an emotion code practitioner. I help clients from around the world release trapped emotions that are holding them back in life. And I have here with me a longtime friend and a transitional master, Cy Pilkington.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. And welcome, everyone, to our first Spirit Beacon show. Sarah and Lenny want to do more of these where we share information with people based on life lessons and our experiences, as we move from the egoic mind to the heart center and how it affects us in this reality, how it affects us as we relate to others, and what we have to look forward to working with nature, the chakras, self-love, all the different things, including crystals. Like I have a crystal right here with me that's been around for a long time, and we can talk a little bit about her later. But I just wanted to welcome everyone to the first of the series.
Yes, welcome. We're really excited to be doing this. We've been getting a lot of questions from clients that we have about how to live life more in their heart, how to be able to choose their thoughts, how and why trauma occurs, why it happens to them, and how to deal with it. And so we're just going to cover some of those topics today, and hopefully that'll shine some light in some places in your own lives.
So first off, I think we probably need to describe what does it mean to be living from a heart-centered place instead of from an egoic mind place. Sarah, why don't you have a crack at what you think the difference is?
Yeah, so living from a heart-centered place is really dropping into your heart and into your soul and observing your thoughts, almost from like a third-person perspective, and not believing every thought to be true, not giving power to every thought that comes into the mind. And from that heart-centered place, making those choices from that place and choosing your thoughts from that place instead of following every thought and believing in every thought, which can be very fear-based.
Yeah, that's a good step and a good point to start with. First off, when people are in their thoughts or in their head, in most cases, the brain is just part of the physical body. And it's like a computer. It takes input and it stores it and it converts it into beliefs and perceptions about the reality. And then it tends to interpret all of your experiences, everything in the past, the present, and what it would think about as the future, and twist that around based on your beliefs and your perceptions, which have cultivated through life experience. It could be from a religious upbringing. It could be from a strong family position. It could be from work experience. It could be from relationships. It could be from self-thought and self-doubt. And yeah, it often cultivates itself into fear, which is false evidence appearing real. Fear is not real. Danger is real. In the perception, like we talk about, don't step in front of a train, you're going to get schmucked. That's danger. That's not fear. So most people go through life looking at all the input that they get from other people, from thoughts, from their own self-dialogue, from where they stand in their own life, their relationships, where they live, their bank account, their business, their jobs, all of that. And then they weigh that against a belief and a perception that they have in their mind about where they should be at compared to where they think they should be at. And those beliefs and perceptions are very much real for every individual in their own unique way, but in essence, they're generally not real. They're just a perception or a belief, and everybody has different ones. It's really interesting when you travel around the world, you see people that have different ways of living, and they have different beliefs and perceptions, and they live in a completely different way than we would in America, and they're quite content and happy with that, where it doesn't meet with our standards and our beliefs. So when you go into your heart center and you start interpreting life through the heart and through feeling as opposed to through thinking, you experience life in a very different way. I mean, we're vibratory beings. Everything vibrates. Even this crystal vibrates. Everything is made of emotion and brought into solidity through thought. And when you think of the heart is the only vibratory organ in the body. It sends out it's a vibration that other people can feel. The brain doesn't. It does, has electrical impulses and different things, but it's not a receiver of other people's vibration. It is a receiver of other people's thoughts. And we're very much like a radio tower. We pick up on other people's thoughts, and then we tend to take them as our own. And then we make them mean things. So when you think something negative about yourself, then you go down this rabbit hole of then judging yourself and connecting it to experience and making it mean something that takes you down this path that doesn't support you and often disappoints you in life. And part of the challenge that we have in this lifetime is to really connect with one's heart and self-love. What does it take to unconditionally love yourself as opposed to conditionally love yourself? And I've probably covered a lot of ground here, talking about some of this stuff pretty quickly, but we can go into more depth on these things later, just to differentiate conditional love versus unconditional love. Conditional love says you love yourself when you agree that what you've done and the choices you make support your beliefs and perceptions about what you think life should look like. Then you will love yourself. If you make a mistake and you judge yourself, you don't love yourself, because judgment takes you out of love. So unconditional love is knowing that you're making the best choices in life that you can. You are doing the best that you possibly can to have the human experience, which is a flawed experience, from the beginning. So it's a question of how do we overcome those things and just follow the feelings of what's highest and best, what feels good as opposed to what feels bad. In some cases, people say what feels heavy versus what feels light. You want to do what feels light. But it's a challenge to go through life trusting a feeling. And it's a feeling that doesn't come from the brain. It's a feeling that comes from the higher self in the body. And we've been trained through society, through school, through family, through all kinds of information coming to us that we are our thoughts and we are our personality. And that's not totally true. I mean, they're parts of us, but that's not the essence of who we are. So many people are stuck in their thoughts, and they're stuck in future thoughts, and they're really trying to beat themselves up thinking they should be somewhere else, when the essence in their body is saying, just love where you are. One of my mottos is everything is perfect as it is. Even if you don't think it is, it is. It's perfect in the moment where you need to be for the greatest growth and the greatest learning. And if we can embrace that, people will be much happier with where they're at in life.
Right. So I have a question. As an empath myself, and I have a few clients and friends who are empaths, and you were saying how sometimes, or a lot of times, we're thinking thoughts that we don't even realize are not our own, and we're picking them up and we're believing them to be true, and they can absolutely drive you crazy if you follow each thought, especially if they're not yours, especially if they're not beliefs that are yours. So how can you tell the difference?
Well, the first thing is to recognize that you are not your thoughts. Your thoughts are emanations from you and from your brain. And when you think the thought and you take action on it, you make the thought real. But you really only want to take action on thoughts that resonate in your body. So when you have a thought about a major thing, not like, what should I eat tonight? You'll get that immediately anyway. But, you want to check in with your body and know, is that thought something that's legitimately yours, or is it somebody else's? But we tend to take a thought and then we connect it to a train. It's a daisy chain. It's the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And we make it mean things that don't even, relate. I had a client one time, she came to see me and she was like, oh my God, I'm going to have cancer. And I'm like, well, really? Like, where did that come from? Oh, my cousin was just diagnosed with cancer. And I'm like, okay, so what has that got to do with you? Well, if she got it, it must run in the family, and therefore I must be going to get it because she got it, and I'm going to die just like she's going to die. And I was like, really? Okay. How does that feel in your body? And she was like, well, it doesn't feel good. And it's like, okay, so do you think it's really real? And she felt and thought into it, and she thought, wow, this is my mind really tricking me and making all these things, think they're real when they're really not real. And I said,
Right.
yeah, it's just how it works. When we walk down the street, as I said, we're radio towers. We pick up on everybody's thoughts around us. And some people pick up more than others, but everybody does pick up a little bit. And it's discerning which are your thoughts and which are somebody else's, and then checking in with your body to see which ones are in your highest and best and which ones are real. Because your thoughts will disappoint you in the long run. They will set you up for something that isn't real and you can't achieve. And you get disappointed. It happens all the time. It happens in relationships, happens in business, happens just in personal life and choice. So when you're really checking with the body and make choices based on what feels best for you, the outcomes are much happier and much, much easier to deal with, because you're just trusting and moving through in a feeling as opposed to a thought. One other aspect of that I know that has come up for a lot of people recently is attachment and expectation as it relates to thoughts and as it relates to feelings. Attachment will always disappoint you. You'll always have a mental thought and get attached to that belief that's different than everybody else, because your thoughts are your thoughts and their thoughts are their thoughts in terms of how they perceive them and the perceptions and beliefs they have about the reality. So if you're not careful, if you attach yourself to a thought, or you attach yourself to a person or to an experience, you're taking away the universe's ability to actually bring you something that's even better. And you're limiting your experience, and then you stay attached to it once it even passes, and you hold on to it as a piece of the past, that you're letting the past dictate how you are in the present moment, as opposed to just being open and allowing for the energy to come in and go out and your experiences to happen and move on. So when we become attached, it becomes a real problem. I like to tell people, the first two Buddha laws that he had. One was, the first law is pain is inevitable. It's a noble truth, is what Buddha called it. And you get pain when you're born. I mean, coming out that cervix and popping out into reality is a kind of a shocking and painful experience. But there's all these different things that create some pain and anguish for you. The second noble truth is suffering is optional. So when you stay in your mind and you stay in your thoughts, you attach to an experience or an outcome, that's what creates the suffering, is the attachment to the expectation or how you think about what should happen, as opposed to just accepting that the pain happened, that there was an experience, you learn from it and grow from it, and you let it go and move on to the next one. But many, many people think that they need to be attached. They think they can change the past. They think they can, do something different that will put them in a different place in the now. And it can't. You are exactly where you need to be. You're exactly where is the highest and best for you. If you could just trust the feeling and know that the outcome is going to lead you to something greater than what you can contemplate and think about by letting go of the attachment.
Right. And I think that this really applies to everything, but especially relationships.
Totally.
I think that the ego really runs rampant in relationships, especially with attachment and expectation. And instead of coming from a place of unconditional love and support and sharing the experience, we tend to, as people, we tend to control and have an attachment to an outcome, and it can be quite horrible. But to make the shift into just unconditional love, I think that is so transformational. What do you think?
True. I mean, why, and I don't want to categorize this as a female thing, but women tend to date the same kind of guys over and over until they realize that that's not a good thing for them. But they're attached to a certain kind of person, a certain kind of outcome, a certain feeling that they have. And until they move past that, they'll continue to have that experience over and over until they learn the lesson. And, relationships are, for me, there's two major parts to a relationship. And one is you have to love the person. And, I've never met a heart that I didn't love and a soul that I didn't love, really, because they're just pure. But the personality, that's a whole nother story. You have to like the person that you're with, not just love the heart and the soul that makes them up. And if you don't like, their beliefs and perceptions of the reality and how they perceive themselves in the reality and the interaction of the relationship probably isn't going to work. and everything is vibrational. So everybody in a relationship is in a vibration. That vibration is a combination of thoughts, and it's a combination of where your body is vibrating, in essence of where you're at with your ascension and your journey.
Right.
And you really need to connect at the right level, not just think your way through everything, but really feel that vibration and feel the essence of that. But if you don't love and like somebody, I got news for you. It's probably not going to work unless the person really goes through some significant emotional changes and drops into the feeling as opposed to the thought, and lets go of the beliefs and perceptions that no longer serve them. That's one of the things. Sarah, you work with emotion code, releasing and opening up those heart walls, allowing people to let go of those things that have held them back, from the past. And when they do that, then they can shift their vibration and shift who they are into a
Right.
higher level and open themselves up to a better experience and a better life. And it can have a profound effect on relationships.
Yeah, and something that I've noticed is if one partner is healing and the other partner is not, like you said, it has to be a vibrational match. And we're always changing, we're always healing, we're always growing, unless we're deciding not to, unless we're not growing. And so if one person is growing faster than their partner is, that can cause the end of a relationship sometimes. It's really it's a two-way street, and both people need to be in it to grow.
Oh, totally. And, you'll find people that have attachments in the relationship that don't want to grow. The other thing that contributes major to it is fear. People are afraid that if they shift their beliefs and perceptions, if they allow and let go, they're going to get hurt. And, I have a belief around that. And it may be a mental thought of a belief, but at the same time, it's based on a lot of experience. And that is that nobody can really hurt you except for physically. Somebody comes up and beats you with a baseball bat. Yeah, they've hurt you. But often what people say and what people, do with themselves in a relationship, it only hurts you if you perceive that it's something against what you believe. And in most cases, it's not. Everybody is their own reality. We just share the same space. And when we share the same space, our realities bump up against each other. But nobody can truly hurt you with things that they say. It's only your perception of what they say that hurts you, or your perception of what they do that hurts you. The more that you unconditionally love yourself and accept who you are, then you don't need somebody around you to love you. You don't need somebody to be there for you. They can choose to be there. You can share the experience as opposed to, getting stuck on this belief that you need them to be there for you. That's where the hurt comes. When somebody says something to you about, get lost or go away, or they do something that, goes against the grain for you, then you feel hurt because you're attached, because you have this need with them. But when you unconditionally love yourself, you can let go of most of those experiences, and it doesn't have the profound effect on you like it does when you have an attachment.
So that brings up for me clients who are in emotionally abusive relationships where they're being put down all the time. They're being called names. And so from this perspective, which I agree with this perspective, we're really saying that nothing your partner says or does to you, non-physically anyways, can hurt you. That doesn't necessarily mean to stay in the relationship, because at that point it's probably not a vibrational match. But what do you say in regards to that, in regards to someone who's actually in a very emotionally abusive relationship?
Well, everybody comes into your life for a reason. And generally that reason is to show you some aspect of yourself that you're not able to see on your own. So what does it take for you to see that growth inside of you that you need to have? So the abusive aspect of the relationship, and what I've found in many, many cases with clients, is that the abuse that they have for themselves far outweighs the abuse that the other person does. They beat themselves up. They're harder on themselves than anybody. So because they do it to themselves, they just think it's natural that somebody else would do that to them too. But they need to step into the truth and the unconditional love of themselves and know that they deserve and are worth so much more. And they don't accept what other people say. They don't accept that somebody wants to, talk down to you and call you names. That is coming from the person that's doing it, not for the person that is receiving it. And they can rise above that situation. But it goes back to many levels of beliefs and perceptions and attachments. People in abusive relationships think that the person loves them and they do it because they love them, as opposed to thinking that there's something wrong and it needs to be adjusted and corrected, because it just shouldn't be that way. But they hang on thinking that there is nobody that's going to be better for them. They have self-worth issues. They don't love themselves enough to know that they deserve something better. And it's a matter of really trying to get through to them so they can understand that they deserve so much more. They're divine beings. It's only society that pushes us into separation, when really at the heart level we are all one, and we are all energy, and we're just here for this sojourn in a physical skin body to have the experience and forget who we were when we came here, so that we can learn and grow through the experience. So abusive relationships are just trying to get your attention on stuff, and you tend to allow it to happen with the beliefs and perceptions once you're in it. And so often other people need to come in and help them see things in a different way. And when they start to love themselves, in an unconditional direction, then they'll see that what's happening in the relationship is not good and healthy for them.
Right. And at that point, they realize, once they let go of abusing themselves within, they realize this is not a match anymore, this is not normal, and then they wind up leaving that relationship, unless the relationship transforms.
True, but they have to trust that what they deserve is something better than what they have in the relationship. Mm-hmm. It's the old adage that, is the grass greener on the other side? Well, you have to trust and have faith that, the relationship that you deserve is something better than what you have. And that comes from your own self-worth and your own recognition of the truth within you, and the unconditional love that you need to have for yourself, just like, Source has for you.
Right, and I think a lot of people are afraid to let go of those relationships because the unknown is scarier than what they have now, because they don't know what's coming. It could be worse, but it could be better, and so they hold on.
True, but when they realize that their reality doesn't depend on somebody else, the essence of going into unconditional love for self says that you are all. You can do everything you need to do for yourself. The answers are all within you. The love is within you. Then you can choose to share an experience with somebody which is a completely different level than need. And so many people are stuck on need. I need that person to fulfill me. I need that person to fill that space in my heart. I need that person's income to help me live the way I want to live. Those are just beliefs and perceptions in the mind. Those aren't true. Everybody is capable of doing anything. We are creators. Once we step out of the perception of the human experience into the truth of who we are, then, you can change the reality in a heartbeat. You just have to trust and know that you can do that. And that just comes with faith and belief and love.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that people also look for that love in other things, not just romantic relationships. Although romantic relationships, I think, takes number one in this. People look for it in food, they look for it in accomplishments, in their degree, and in validation from friends or social media. It's everywhere. So to drop in and to know the truth that we are whole and complete on our own.
That's a huge
amazing.
One.
Yeah.
Because most people don't believe that they're whole and complete.
Right.
Or they think they're whole and complete when they do things that their mind says is okay. Like when you get a promotion, or you get a pay raise, or somebody says something nice to you, then it feeds the egoic aspect of you, and then you think, okay, so I'm doing the right thing. But the truth is, you don't need anybody to do that for you. You can do that for yourself. I would challenge the people that watch this video to do what I ask of all my clients when they first start, and that is, when you look in the mirror at yourself, what is it that you truly see? What is it that you truly feel? And then what do you make any of that mean? Because if you look in the mirror and see somebody broken, if you look in the mirror and see somebody not deserving, if you look in the mirror as few times as possible because you don't like what you see, you've got some inner work that needs to be done, and we want to help you with that. Because I want you to look in that mirror and see the beautiful divine being that you are. I want you to see and have the love for yourself that nobody else can have for you, because you are you, and you are amazing. And you just have to recognize that and see that and know that at your core, and your whole life will change. It will take on a whole different perception and perspective based on where you're going in the future. When you stand proud and tall and smile at people because you can, because you feel good about yourself. I mean, joy and happiness, appreciation and gratitude, love, they're high on the scale. That's where we want to be. And it's when you get to those places, your life just takes on a magical way as opposed to a hardship way, in a downtrodden way, in a negative way. People that are always, focusing on anger and doubt and greed and low vibrational kinds of things, they're not loving themselves. When you judge yourself, you don't love yourself. There's no room for judgment in love. Love is only positive. Love only knows one way, and that is the positive way. And we need to embrace that and know that the duality is just part of the 3D reality. It's not part of the 4D or the 5D. And there's no duality with love. You just love. And don't rely on other people to love you when you could love yourself.
Right. And I think I've noticed with my own clients after clearing their heart walls, they go from a place of fear and a place of hurt and holding on to trauma, and then slowly as they go through 1 session, 2 sessions, 3 sessions, all of a sudden they show up and they're inspired and they're talking about building in their life and what they want to do and what they want to create, and I think that is so beautiful. And it's not from a place of need, it's not from a place of lack anymore. It's finally from a place of love for themselves and joy for living. It's so cool.
When they realize that the life that they have is not in their control or anybody else's control, but it's with intention and desire that the universe helps to create the experience that gives you everything that you need in life and that everything that you desire and want. So when they realize that those beliefs and limitations that they've been thinking are real get broken down and taken away, now all of a sudden it's like, wow, I can do this. It's like, have you ever watched a video of an animal that's been captive for years and then released into the wild? At first there's trepidation about, is this really real? What do I feel in my paws I never felt before? And then all of a sudden it's like excitement, and away they go. And they run and play, and it's like they're super happy because they realize that the life that they had before no longer constrains them. They can live in a new way. And people are the same way.
Yeah, that reminds me of how elephants are raised in the zoo, how they're attached to a little pole and they only have about, I don't know, 3 feet that they can walk from the pole at a time. And eventually after they're, what is that? Can you tell the story?
So what happens is with elephants, it's a learned experience. As a baby elephant, they're chained with a chain to a pole. And it's very short, so they can't move very much. And as they grow, they replace the chain with rope. And then eventually the rope gets replaced with something even smaller. And when they're full-grown elephants, even just a fishing line tied to a post will stop the elephant from moving away because we've taught the behavior that they can never go anywhere. And it's a learned response. In society, we very much have a lot of learned responses. The way that the government speaks to you, religion speaks to you, schools speak to you, families speak to you, society speaks to you. It's very much in a limited perception as opposed to, a creation, and that you can do anything that you want to do.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think the phenomenon is called learned helplessness. So it's special to see people move away from that and just live from the heart again, because that's what we were born with. I think Marianne Williamson says love is what we're born with, fear is what we learned here.
Yep, absolutely.
And the spiritual process is really unlearning everything that we learned to go back into love, which is the truth.
Right, we're a society that came here with amnesia. And how do you remember what you forgot? Well, it's in your body, it's in your genes, it's in your DNA. And you have an inkling that things aren't the way that people portray them to be. And you can feel it in your body because your higher self speaks through your body, it doesn't speak through your mind. I mean, when your body dies, your mind stays. The brain stays. Now, there's an energetic mind aspect to it, like imagination exists outside of your body, etc. But the brain, the physical brain, doesn't go anywhere. The energetic self and the soul goes back to the energetic world to decide if it wants to come back and do it again. And it learns from every life experience that you've had. The question is, how can you let go of the beliefs in your brain and trust the feeling in your heart more than what you think?
Right. I have a question from a client and from a viewer that I wanted to address in our show today, and that is, what is the purpose of trauma? What is the purpose? There are some people who go through so much in life, so much pain and so much trauma and experiences that I couldn't even imagine going through. And what I told her is that it grows us as a person. It really pushes us to go into the heart, to become centered, to become a better version of ourselves, and to remember who we are. But I think there's more to it, if you want to share.
Well, there's a couple of aspects of that. And one is, people perceive trauma differently. Some things are traumatic for some and not traumatic for others. But we tend to learn, excuse me, as a significant emotional event. So we shift things. Like if people have a heart attack, all of a sudden their whole life changes. And you could say that's trauma, but that's what it took to get their attention to do something different, drop in and feel the essence of who they are. So trauma is trying to help you and support you. Okay? Sorry. Some things coming up there. But what trauma is yours and what trauma is others? Everybody, like we talked about earlier, everybody's like a radio tower. We pick up other people's stuff. So sometimes the trauma that you're picking up and having an experience of isn't even your own. It's somebody else's. But the question is, how much pain and trauma does it take for you to let go of a belief about life, to shift life into a different place? I had a friend who, she'd driven for 25 years, never had one car accident, had 3 car accidents 3 months in a row. And each one got more severe. First one was just a little fender bender. Next one took her out of the car and into the hospital for a couple days. Next one laid her up for, better part of a month. And she's like, why did this happen to me? Like, what was happening? And it's a question of, were you listening to the messages and the signals that were coming to you before it got to the point of escalating that it had to physically take you out of the physical experience to get you to realize that there's more communicating with you. There's more than just going about life every day in the same routine. And it often happens with people. Things will happen that take them out of their normal flow to get their attention because they're not watching the messages. A lot of people see numbers on clocks and different things, and they just think it's really cute, but it's actually communication. And things are happening for your benefit, not to you. So even trauma is happening for you, not to you. Now, if I told you that before you came to this incarnation in this life of the physical essence of who you are now, you knew what the significant things that were going to happen to you were before you actually incarnated into this body, that changes a lot of different thoughts. Like if really you planned most of your major experiences in this life, yes, you have free will in the moment, but then the future's rearranged to get you back on path to what it is that you came here to do. If you could step into life understanding that and thinking about that, it could be a lot easier to have the experience. I mean, in the hundreds and thousands of lifetimes that many of us have had, we've had some significant experiences, but they're ones that we laid out to have. Like a lot of people disagree with this statement, but at a spiritual level, you can't. And that is, nobody can be killed that didn't agree to be killed by the person doing the killing. The higher selves had the agreement for that experience. So if somebody's walking down a sidewalk one day and somebody walks up and shoots them, there was an agreement at the energetic level to have that experience. Now, whether the person passes or the person recovers or goes through the experience, there's different levels of that understanding. But the truth is, at the spiritual level, that is how it's played out. That's what it is. It's like a big play that's been prescripted, but then has some ad-lib aspects of it going through the process. And it's a hard one to swallow, and a lot of people may not understand that and may disagree with me on that. But eventually, when you get to the level of an ascension process and going through, you'll realize that there is no accidents. There are no coincidences. Everything is synchronistic, and it happens the way it was meant to happen for your greater growth and your greater learning.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. That was awesome.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So we have free will. But you're saying the universe is self-organizing and self-correcting. So even if we kind of veer off the track, there are no mistakes, right?
Correct. There are no mistakes. You know, it's not like everything in life that you're going to experience has already been predestined and laid out. It's just the significant events. You know, it's like when you decide to go to the beach one day and sit at the beach and meditate, when you leave the beach, the next steps that are going to happen, your higher self is already orchestrating those to happen for you based on the thoughts and the choices that you made that led up to that.
Right. I think, sorry.
No.
I think it's important to realize that sometimes a delay is really, it's purposeful in the eyes of the universe.
Absolutely.
You're meant to be delayed.
Absolutely.
Like the people who missed their flights on the day of 9/11, they were probably very angry that they missed their flights, but then later that day they realized, okay, maybe I was meant to miss my flight, you know?
Well, we only have a limited perception of the reality, and it's generally just in this now moment in the past, because we remember everything that's happened in the past. But the truth is, the only time that truly exists is now. Now is happening in every dimensional level, in the past, present, future, all in the now. It's a concept that takes a lot to wrap your thoughts around, because our brains aren't wired to say that is how things really are. So when you go through the experience of life, you know, it's hard to fathom that you came to this life laying out multiple steps along the way, picking the parents that you were going to have and the family that you were going to have, so that you can have experiences in this lifetime that you either didn't complete in past lifetimes or you haven't had yet. And it's for your own growth and development as an energetic being to have these different experiences. From our perception of the reality, we could say it's traumatic, but in most cases, we only see it with blinders on. We can't see it, you know, in the big scope of things. Like in the future, you'll look back and say, you know, wow, that really changed my life. And, you know, it was a positive or it was a negative if you didn't embrace it as a positive change. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people hold on to things from the past in a negative way and live, you know, in negativity all the time. And it's sad because they could very easily change that to a positive thing and live in a loving and caring way, as opposed to living in a negative way, creating a wake of negativity everywhere they go.
Right. And I think that goes back to attachment, because we were attached to an outcome and it didn't work out the way we wanted it to. And so then we're angry, and then we're holding on to that anger, and then we don't get to enjoy the rest of our lives unless we release that.
Well, totally. I mean, you know, so many people have a perception of the reality, maybe from their parents, maybe from their grandparents, maybe from a movie, maybe from, you know, stars that they want to be, or, you know, looking at other people or social media. And it's not necessarily the truth. You know, the truth is in your heart, not in your head. And people tend to not get that. You know, as an example, and don't get mad at me, Sarah, but, you know, I've known Sarah for years.
About 10 years.
Yeah, and, you know, a long time ago, Sarah was very much what I would call a head case. Mm-hmm. Totally in her thoughts, totally thinking about everything.
I thought my thoughts were who I was.
Right, and most people think their personality is who they are, but it's not. I mean, when you think back in other lifetimes, I mean, I've been female, male, you know, all different kinds of beings and things. And it's like, it's not who I am. I'm the energetic being that's here for, you know, this sojourn in this physical body. And you got to let go of the thoughts and perceptions in your head that limit you from seeing beyond your understanding. I mean, if we only created things that we knew in our head, we would never create anything new. I mean, it would only just be what we understood. But the fact that there is things being created every day that are beyond our understanding has got to tell people there's more to the reality and the experience than what we know.
Right. I have some younger clients, some artists, and they stopped creating art, but then once they did some energy work, they released their heart wall, they started creating again. They started painting again and opening up again.
Yep.
They weren't in their head anymore. They
Absolutely.
were creating from the heart.
Yeah, and the creative aspect was flowing through them. You know, I love what Da Vinci said one time when somebody asked him about how do you know what you're going to sculpt? And he says, I don't. The rock knows what I'm going to sculpt. All I do is chip away the pieces to reveal what's already inside the rock. It's beyond my understanding.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
Yeah, and that's a lot of what life is. We just go about every day doing the best that we can, knowing that it's being shaped and it's being created. And you do it from a loving, positive way, and you'll be blown away at what happens and what experiences you have in life.
Right. Another topic I wanted to cover today was forgiveness, especially forgiveness of those who are in our families, who are really close to us. I have a lot of clients who are holding a lot of resentment towards their parents because they're realizing they're going through this healing and they're realizing, I'm so hurt. I'm so, I don't know, in their words, messed up. And it's because I was raised this way, or it was because my mom or my dad should have been a better parent. And so I try to teach them acceptance and forgiveness and seeing through the ego to the love that's within their parents, and knowing that their parents did their best from what they knew and what they've been through and from their own consciousness. Is there anything you want to add to that?
Forgiveness is a huge topic. One of my friends, Azim Kmisa, he wrote a book about forgiveness, after his son died, years ago. And he goes around the world, doing, different seminars and things on forgiveness. The truth is, who do you really need to forgive? You have to forgive yourself for the experience and perception that you put upon others. And you have to forgive them knowing that they were doing the best that they could. Do you think that a parent in general would do something bad if they knew it was going to result in a negative experience for their child? No. In most cases, no, they wouldn't. But they don't know any better. They're doing the best that they can, just as you're doing the best that you can in the moment. So, forgiveness is about accepting. Like I said before, my motto is everything's perfect as it is. Now, are we perfect in the moment? Not necessarily but the moment is perfect for what it needs to be to give us the greatest lesson so that we can move closer and closer towards what we would think is perfection. Do you ever get there? Maybe not. It's a lifelong journey and many lifetimes of journey to achieve some kind of perfection in terms of our perception of perfection. But the truth is, you're really doing the best that you can. And you're doing everything that you can for everybody to be the best. And when you focus on the best from the heart, it takes a different shape than when you focus on what is the best in the brain. Because the perception of what is best in the brain is different in everybody. And what we perceive as, how we interact with the reality is very different for everybody. So who you're truly having to forgive? As we talked about earlier, nobody can really hurt you unless physically. And yes, there are some traumas that are physical. But at the same time, you came into this life knowing that trauma was going to happen. And whether you can accept that or not, that's a whole another topic. And whether you can forgive the person that actually did the trauma when you realize that the trauma was something that you asked to have in this lifetime experience because you hadn't had it in other lifetimes, then do you really need to forgive the person who at the soul level participated in providing the trauma that you wanted to have in this lifetime to grow from? I don't know, that's a pretty deep thought, pretty deep subject, and people may have a lot of challenges with that. But at the same time, everything happens for a reason. So what do you truly need to forgive? The perception of the experience or the experience itself?
Right. It's interesting. It's really cool. And I think some of the strongest people we know, Anthony Robbins, Oprah Winfrey, they've all been through, Viktor Frankl, that's a big one. They've all been through massive amounts of trauma.
Look at Victor. Being in the Holocaust camps and, writing multiple books and, saying that the thing that they couldn't take away from him was hope and faith. Mm-hmm. And forgiving them in the end for everything that they did. Even as the religious sense, when Jesus was on the cross and, what did he ask? Forgive them for they know not what they do. Because we tend to not know. We just react, based on perception and belief.
Right. Viktor Frankl, he almost escaped the concentration camp. Do you know that? Mm-hmm. And then he decided he heard God speak to him or whatever it was, and he was inspired to stay to serve. He said he would feel too guilty if he would have actually gone and escaped.
Yeah, absolutely. And he survived the whole experience.
He transcended it.
Yeah, definitely, into a whole new experience. Mm-hmm. Which is amazing when you think about it in terms of the reality. when we can take one experience and we can transform it into an experience that actually supports our growth and our development, and we give back to other people based on the experience that we have. You know, there's so many people out there that have had traumatic experiences that have taken that and turned that into something positive, shared it and given it back to people in such a loving way, so that other people didn't have to experience the trauma they had, but could experience the love that they got from the trauma.
Right. So it's really not about avoiding pain in
No.
life.
No.
It's about transcending it
Yep.
and learning from it and growing from it.
Yep. It's accepting the fact that it's inevitable and experiences are going to be painful, but not holding on to it and make it mean something about you in the future and others.
Because that'll cause suffering.
That
And
causes suffering.
pain is, I think Buddha says the pain is inevitable, suffering is optional.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Which we talked about the noble truths. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us about your crystals?
Crystals. Oh. Well, let's talk about this crystal for a sec. So this crystal is called Gaia. That's what she calls herself. She has got grandmother and granddaughter energy in her. She was picked for me years ago by the Divine Mother. A friend from New Zealand, Kushla, was channeling the Divine Mother and was guided to meet me at my friend Gustav's store in Redondo Beach and pick a crystal for me that would be part of my journey in life. And she has been through many, many, many experiences, from Mayan rituals to crystal skulls to, portal and vortex work, that I've done with different people. And crystals are very much about conscious living and energy. I mean, quartz contains a lot of conscious energy. It grows, and some of them have purposes. She's a working crystal and a healing crystal, but they contain vibration and different vibrational signals that work with our bodies in different way. Sometimes for information, sometimes for healing, sometimes for grounding, sometimes just to help us through pain, suffering, and different experiences that we have in life. She has worked with a lot of different people. There's a saying that says, okay, so the insurance companies say that women live longer than men, right? So you could say, why do women live longer than men? Well, there's no real health reason why they do. But in general, one of the reasons is that women wear crystals and men tend not to. Women wear a lot of jewelry that are semi-precious stones. And those stones work with the body through a vibrational way and help us in ways that we don't know. There's a lot of people that carry negative energy and dark energy, and their energy's not clear, and their chakras are blocked, and the energy doesn't flow through them, and they don't hold a lot of light. And crystals can really work with you to help you to live a better life. I mean, they can elevate your vibration. You can hold more light. They can bring joy and love and harmony into your life. So I work with a lot of crystals. A lot of crystals have been given to me and come to me in different ways that carry coded information that can work with my clients and my friends to help them get past the experience that they're stuck in. And the crystals are great to be embraced. I mean, if you look back at, Atlantean times, they used crystals for everything. Healing, communication, for growth, for development, for powering, different devices and things, because they have the ability to do that. And we are moving to a crystal age. I mean, we've been the carbon age. Now we're going to move over, years and generations to the luminous body and the crystal aspects. And we have crystals in our body that are natural crystals that we can tap into and connect with crystals of the earth. So there's a lot of information on crystals, and we'll save a lot of that for another show. But that's just a little touch on that. Don't ever downplay crystals, because they can change your life.
Yeah, because I have clients who have asked me, I always tell them around the second and third session, they're starting to clear away a lot of their old energy, and I tell them you have to protect yourself now so you don't trap new emotions, trap new energy. And I tell them to wear crystals, especially obsidian, black tourmaline, rose quartz to stay in the heart. And they say, I really don't understand why wearing a rock is going to help me. And so you explained it really well. It's vibrational.
It is a vibration, and it's consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they're gifts from the earth and from the universe for us, and they're, conscious creations. So they can help us in many ways.
Yeah, I certainly feel a difference when I wear my crystals versus when I don't.
Absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. I do all the time and swear by them.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Well, thank you, Sarah. This has
Yeah.
been great connecting, and hopefully we've answered some questions from people and challenged some people's thoughts, and opened up their beliefs and perceptions a little bit. I'm sure we've got a few people that are excited about some of the conversation, and have all kinds of things to say, I'm sure. But you have to pick what resonates with you.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody will tell you whatever their experience is and whatever they feel, but different things resonate with different people. So just take whatever I've said or Sarah said and just feel what resonates, with you. And, in future shows, we'll talk more about crystals, we'll talk about Schumann resonance, we'll talk about Earth and what's going on, we'll talk about the energies, and we'll talk about where you are at and where you're going in life and how you can improve that experience for yourself.
Cool. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And if you have any questions or any requests or anything like that, just make sure to comment below and we'll address them in the future.
Totally.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching and taking the time. Appreciate it.